Hey, deserving listeners, Ultimatum Queer Love, let's watch.
I have never felt more alone, but
It's not your fault.
I didn't realize how much this process would not just rip off Band-Aids, but there are things.
Okay, so it's good that AJ and Marie are having conversation. I think AJ should do a lot of talking. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, but Brittany mentioned in a one-on-one interview that she had gotten together with AJ. And the way that AJ talked about it, the way that she disclosed it to Marie, it sounded like AJ and Brittany got back together like physically and fully. But, and that, and AJ didn't say that, but the way that she mentioned it, right? But but I don't know. Recalling, maybe that's debatable. That would be a reasonable conclusion from what AJ said. But anyway, Brittany said in a one-on-one interview that she had met up with AJ to just kind of clarify that they were actually, I think, to clarify their intentions, to kind of reiterate their intentions for the trial marriage or something. And Brittany also mentioned that she's like, I don't think Marita knows that I met up with AJ. And the way that Brittany mentioned it, it seemed a lot more innocent. It seemed like to Brittany, it was like, well, the way that Brittany was talking about it, it didn't seem like she was hiding anything. The way that AJ talked about it, it seemed like she was hiding something, which makes me wonder who's right there, or if it's something in between, or a third possibility, or if AJ was using it somehow as a way to push Marie away, or as a way to sabotage or something. Because the way that Brittany was talking about it was like, yeah, I met up, we clarified, we had a couple conversations. I don't think Marita knows that, but it doesn't matter, it's before. Or if Brittany is lying about the getting together, or if Brittany just doesn't understand that it would impact Marita or something. I don't know. But regardless, at least in the edit, it'd be good if AJ could just disclose more about, like, here's why it happened, here's what I was thinking, here's why I didn't tell you, I should have told you, stuff like that. But we're at least jumping in at the point of the conversation where Marie is doing most talking. And Maria's, I don't know if I include this, but Marie says, I've never felt more alone, but that's not your fault, AJ. It's because this process has been ripping the Band-Aid off, I think, meaning it's opened up a lot of eyes. It's opened my eyes a lot, because if I'm reading into it, Marie and Mel were together. Marie is giving Mel the ultimatum and no longer being with Mel. Oh, I should also mention that there was a sequence in which some of the couples went to the same pool. I think they're staying in the same hotel or condo building, and they coincidentally happened to be at the same pool. And Marie or Mel and Dana were having a moment, and Megan saw them and they had eye contact, and Marie and Mel turned to each other, or sorry, Mel and Dana turned to each other and were like, oh my God, this is awkward. There's Megan. And it's hard to know what was happening, but the way Megan interpreted it was that Dana had moved on and was now with Mel and didn't give a shit about Megan or something. So I think there were 3 couples that kind of ran into each other, and it was awkward, which makes me wonder if they should try to avoid that, because nothing good's going to come from watching the love of your life be with someone else, Anyway, so Marie is also, I think Marie would have seen that maybe, but the Band-Aid being ripped off of just like, was this all a sham, my relationship with Mel? I think that's what Marie is talking about.
That I really thought that I healed from years ago. I learned that I did not. And I never had to because the person that I was processing it with was literally living it with me.
Okay, so Marie is referring to some hurt that she thought she had healed from years ago, but is she talking about Mel? Because Marie and Mel had been together, yeah, for 4 years, so I don't know.
And that person can't even look at me.
Yeah, I think what Marie is talking about is that pool awkwardness. You know, and it's possible that Mel was a jerk face because Mel and Dana are connecting. But it also could be that Mel and Dana just didn't know what to do because they are, I think, told to avoid contact with their ex, with their, with the original couple. You could imagine the production telling them, look, you're not supposed to contact your former partner, blah, blah, blah. So you could see that that could be misunderstood by Marie and Megan. Anyway.
Mel's smile would have been enough.
Yeah. And it's totally possible that Marie was picking up on a vibe between Mel and Dana. One of, oh, that's my old partner. I don't even want to, I'm with this person now. So, yeah, that's got to be rough.
Fault you for any of it. Just envious, I guess. We come from very different backgrounds. I stopped talking to my mother, and then she died. People don't look at me and think, she's a victim of suicide, whatever. Like, people don't look at me and think that shit.
All right, so I think what we're learning is that Marie cut herself off from her mother. We don't know why. Maybe because she's gay. I don't know. You know, Marie's gay. Or something else, or a combination. But at the very least, there was a cutoff there. And then the mother died by suicide, I think is what she's saying. And then she's saying, people don't, what did she say?
Talking to my mother, and then she died. People don't look at me and think, she's a victim of suicide, whatever. Like, people don't look at me and think that shit.
People don't look, I think what Marie is expressing is that she is walking around with the weight and trauma and grief of suicide. Suicide has some, I'm writing a book on grief, and there's a section on suicide, of course, and it's complicated because often these kinds of losses can be overgeneralized, as if everyone experiences the same thing, in which they don't. There are some themes, but at any rate, for even just losing your mother to death, just from cancer or old age or something, can be difficult. So anyway, for Marie, she's, I think, expressing that she's walking around with the trauma and the grief, and people don't see her that way. They don't appreciate, they don't ask about what she's going through, either because Marie doesn't signal it or ask for help, or that she will signal and people don't care because they don't appreciate what it would be like. I don't know.
Oh, you only talk about your dad. Yeah, I do. Oh, da, da, da. Do you really want to know? I mean, there's so much that comes with that, right? Like,
okay, again, I'm not clear, but I think Maria is saying that people will casually observe, well, you only talk about your dad. How come you don't talk about your mom? That's interesting. And they don't inquire more or something, or even if they do know the mom died by suicide or did die, they don't inquire more. And she also wonders, maybe through experience, if people are genuinely interested or are actually going to be there when she does get into it, right? So it's just easier to just not mention it, or to say that mom died from some other thing that isn't as difficult to deal with or something, which is something that's very common for people that experience loss, significant loss, and have totally normal, ongoing, intense grief. They almost always will feel like they have to accommodate other people by acting like everything's fine, because they accurately predict that other people will think that there's something wrong with them as the griever to be still grieving, and or there's just a general oppression of emotions and sadness. People say like, they're in a better place now, or why are you dwelling on it, or just kind of all that shit. So I think Marie is expressing that. I think
You never get over it. It doesn't get easier. I hid from that for years.
Yeah. One of the main themes of my book is just that you don't get over it. It doesn't end. It lasts forever. Now, what are we referring to when we say it? Well, read my book, I guess, when it comes out, because because grief is, there's literally, I have a whole chapter on the various experiences of grief, and there's dozens of very distinct experiences of grief. It's not just the stupid 5 stages that don't actually exist, of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. It's not really that. I don't know if it's that order, but I have a whole chapter on the 5 stages as well and how it's all bullshit. But so it, when we talk about it in terms of the grief of loss and specifically around suicide, the experiences are varied. So the hope is that with enough internal and external support for the individual to grieve naturally and healthily, in a healthy way, then the initial intensity and pain and rumination will diminish, but never ends, right? But other things will last forever. The pain, the regret, the anger, the sadness, the longing, those kinds of experiences of grief often will never end. The recurring dreams, the seeing them out of the corner of your eye, might not ever end. And it's totally normal. And that's what empirical research demonstrates.
And that shit just creeps up in all these spare moments that I have. I'm angry. I'm very angry. I'm a very angry person deep down. I am very angry at the world. And I can't control that.
Okay. Anger comes from perceived injustice. And I could imagine what those injustices are for Marie. The injustice against queer people, lesbians, against women. And I don't know if we know Marie's ethnicity, but that could also be involved. I'm not sure. There's a lot of reasons to be angry, and that's healthy. What do we do with the anger is what we should be asking ourselves. We should do something with the anger. We should not suppress it. We should do something. Our anger is telling us to do something. But also the anger of suicide, right? It's in all likelihood that she had a complicated relationship with her mom since she cut her off, or they cut each other off. And then to have her mother die like that, there'd be a lot of complicated feelings, right? How dare you do that? Deny me the opportunity to reconcile with you, or just all the anger and injustice that happened prior to cutting each other off, So, and when someone dies unexpectedly like that, for the people in Marie's position, the anger can become stuck in time, depending. Like I said, it can last forever, but with enough internal acceptance and support and external acceptance and support of the ups and downs and the waves of grief and anger and all that stuff, then the anger does tend to diminish, but never goes away. And it's not uncommon to have those kinds of feelings, yearning and anger and longing and guilt. Through healthy grieving, it will diminish, but there could be anniversaries or just reminders or something, and then it all comes back. But with enough repetition of healthy grieving from other people's support and from internal barriers being removed because those are imposed on us from society, then the waves that will crescendo, the crescendo of the anniversary or the triggering or the revisiting will be briefer than it would be otherwise, if that makes sense.
I think you're just in a place where you're actually finally having to deal with a lot of things that you haven't dealt with in so long. You work 3 jobs. When do you have time to process it?
I never had to. I feel so fucking guarded.
Okay, so AJ is listening well, as usual. Well, the moment when AJ disclosed to Marie about meeting up with Brittany, I wouldn't say that was communicated very well, but AJ has been fairly good as a listener. There's complication given that there were a lot of accusations during the dating period that AJ is fake and up to no good or something. And given the way AJ communicated to Maria about having met up with Brittany, it does raise that question. But anyway, in this moment, AJ isn't doing any reassuring or isn't distracted with her phone or doesn't make it about herself, eye contact, listening, and doesn't seem anxious as she's listening. Anyway, so Marie says, well, what'd she say?
Deal with a lot of things that you haven't dealt with in so long. You work 3 jobs. When do you have time to process it?
I never had.
Yeah, so I have worked 3 jobs. So another part of the ripping the Band-Aid off might be that during this time, they're not working, right? Because they either are hopefully being paid for their time, which I don't think they are properly, but given how much money the show makes, right? But at the very least, they take time off so they can really dedicate themselves to the process, I think. But working 3 jobs might be by design to some extent to avoid, right? Which is totally fine. That's another part of my book to read if you care to. But it's not out yet, but it should be soon, hopefully. Maybe by the end of 2025, but because I still need all the editors and proofreaders to make sure that all my grammar problems aren't too bad. Anyway, so for Marie, we're hearing her say that she, either by design or just out of circumstance, has never had the chance to grieve and to think about this because of working 3 jobs and other kinds of concerns. All right, well, that is it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.